Her voice sliced through the quiet living room like a confession wrapped in poison. Ryan, I took out a loan, in your name, for Derek. You have to pay it back. Ryan didn't speak. Not yet. His eyes drifted to the envelope on the table, the bank's logo printed in bold. He picked it up, opened it, and saw the numbers. $120,000. Then he looked at his wife, the woman he thought he knew, and said calmly, "You forged my signature. For your ex?" Lena's lips trembled. "I didn't mean." But Ryan's silence wasn't shock. It was calculation. Because what she didn't know, what she couldn't even imagine, was that every lie she just confessed had already been recorded. And what he was about to do next would leave her begging for mercy she would never receive. The night smelled of burnt garlic and betrayal. Ryan Carter sat across from his wife, Lena, at their mahogany dining table. The same table where they'd once celebrated promotions and anniversaries. But tonight, the air was heavy. Lena's fork scraped her plate, her eyes darting anywhere but his. "Ryan," she whispered finally, "there's something I have to tell you." He looked up from his meal. "What's wrong?" Her voice quivered. "I took out a loan in your name for Derek. You have to pay it back." For a heartbeat, Ryan thought he misheard. His brow furrowed. "I'm sorry, what?" Her hands trembled. "It was months ago. Derek, he was in trouble. I didn't know what else to do. I thought I could handle it before you found out." Ryan's stomach tightened. Derek, her ex-boyfriend. The same man who'd left her 5 years before they married. The same man she swore she hadn't spoken to in years. He didn't shout. He didn't even blink. "How much?" She hesitated. 120,000. Silence stretched between them, the kind that screams louder than words. Ryan leaned back in his chair, eyes calm but cold. "Lena," he said softly, "how did you even manage to take a loan in my name?" "I used your tax forms, your income records," she stammered. "You always leave them in the study, remember? I forged your signature, but it's fine. I'll pay it off. I just need time." He nodded slowly, his face unreadable. But behind that stillness, something darker was stirring. He remembered the alert he'd received a week ago. A notification about a new account activity he dismissed as a system glitch. He remembered her sudden new designer bag, her quick trips to show clients that never led to a sale. The puzzle pieces started clicking into place. Every small red flag he'd ignored now, forming a picture that made his pulse slow with realization. Lena reached across the table, tears in her eyes. "Please, Ryan, don't look at me like that. I was trying to help. Derek said..." He raised a hand, cutting her off. "Derek said..." His tone was soft, but deadly. "You talked to him?" Her lips parted. He stood up, pushing his chair back with controlled precision. "You forged my name for your ex, using my career to secure a criminal loan, and you want me to pay it back." "Ryan, please." But he was already walking toward the study, because what Lena didn't know was that every inch of this house, every conversation, every whisper had been monitored since the day he moved in. Not out of paranoia, out of habit. Ryan Carter was a cybersecurity specialist, and tonight his own home had just become a crime scene. Ryan didn't sleep that night. He lay beside Lena, her breathing soft and steady, her hand draped over his chest as if nothing had happened. To anyone else, they looked like a peaceful couple. But behind Ryan's half-closed eyes, his mind was dissecting every second of their marriage. Every unexplained call, every sudden errand, every fake smile. At 2:14 a.m., he slipped out of bed. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the living room clock. He padded down the hallway barefoot and entered his study. The one room in the house that truly belonged to him. He opened his laptop. His fingers moved with mechanical precision. Within seconds, he was deep inside the encrypted security logs he'd installed when they bought the house. An unspoken layer of protection he'd added long before marriage. Every microphone, every camera, every network packet. He replayed audio from the last few weeks. Static at first, then faint voices. Lena and another man. "You promised me, Derek," she whispered. "Ryan can't find out. I'll get the documents." Relax, babe, Derek's voice purred. Once the money clears, I'll pay it back. You'll be free. We both will. Ryan's jaw tightened. He scrubbed forward to 3 days ago. You think he'll notice? Ryan, please. He's too trusting. He doesn't even check his mail. He exhaled through his nose, not in anger, but in something colder. Calculation. He copied the audio files, encrypted them, and uploaded them to a hidden drive labeled Horizon. Then he opened his email and traced the origin of the loan application, the IP address, the timestamp, the browser fingerprint. Every digital footprint led back to Lena's laptop, but something else caught his eye. A secondary login from a cosigner. Derek Moore. Ryan leaned back, the faint glow of the monitor reflecting off his expressionless face. He whispered to himself, You didn't just steal my name, Lena. You built a crime with it. A calm smile ghosted across his lips, the kind of smile people wear when they've already decided what must come next. The next morning over breakfast, Lena acted as if nothing had happened. She even tried to joke about the burnt toast. Ryan smiled back, poured her orange juice, and asked in his usual even tone, So, how's work? Still closing that big client? She nodded eagerly, relieved by his calm. She didn't see the subtle shift in his eyes, the watchfulness behind the warmth. When she left for work, he watched her car pull out of the driveway. Then he locked the door, turned off his phone, and whispered, Let's see how deep your little secret goes. He opened his encrypted laptop again, this time connecting to a shadow account at the same bank. He began downloading public filings, asset data, and internal logs. Somewhere in that mess of numbers and digital signatures, he saw it. A company name registered in his own name without his consent. Carter Holdings, LLC. Ryan froze. Then he smiled slowly. So that's how you did it. The storm had begun. The next day, Ryan dressed sharply. Not like a man who had been betrayed, but like a man preparing for a meeting that would define the rest of his life. Dark suit, crisp shirt, steady hands. He drove across town to an address he'd pulled from Lena's emails. More Tech Ventures, Derek's so-called startup. The building was half empty, a co-working space filled with fake energy and empty ambition. At the reception desk, a young intern smiled. Good morning, sir. Do you have an appointment? Ryan flashed a calm smile. Tell Mr. Moore that Ryan Carter's here about the investment papers. The intern nodded and led him into a glass office. Inside sat Derek Moore, the man who once broke Lena's heart, now sitting behind a sleek desk he clearly didn't own, his confidence inflated by desperation. Derek's grin was effortless. Ah, Ryan Carter, the man of the hour. He stood extending his hand. Lena told me you might come by. Ryan shook his hand. Firm, steady, unreadable. She did, huh? Derek gestured to the chair. Please sit. Listen, about the loan, it's just a short-term situation. My investors are late on payments. Once the next funding round closes, I'll settle everything. You won't even notice the difference. Ryan tilted his head slightly. You used my name for that loan, Derek. I noticed. A flicker of unease crossed Derek's expression, quickly masked by arrogance. Look, I get it. You're upset. But Lena and I go way back. She only wanted to help. She said you were stable, reliable. Ryan's lips curved faintly. Stable, huh? That's one word for it. He let his gaze wander to a folder on the desk. The top sheet was titled Carter Holdings, LLC, Capital Expansion Agreement. His name was printed in bold black ink at the bottom, forged with a signature that wasn't his. Logic step, deep foreshadowing. Ryan's previous security background and pattern recognition instincts make this moment fully believable. He catches small anomalies instantly. The pen pressure, the date format. Lena always wrote her sevens with a crossbar. The signature carried that telltale mark. He looked back at Derek. You've been busy, he said quietly. Derek laughed awkwardly. It's just paperwork. Temporary structure helps with tax credits. Ryan stood, adjusted his cufflinks, and said calmly, You're right, it's temporary. Meaning, Derek asked, leaning forward. Ryan smiled slightly. Meaning, I'll be in touch. As Ryan walked out, Derek exhaled, relieved. He had no idea he'd just shaken hands with his executioner. Back in his car, Ryan opened his laptop, connected to a private network, and began pulling Derek's corporate filings from the public database. Within minutes, he uncovered the full web. 3 dummy shell companies, 2 fake addresses, multiple withdrawals funneled through one account. Lena's real estate license trust. Every line, every transaction, every signature, her fingerprints were everywhere. Ryan sat in silence for a long moment, watching the city skyline shimmer in the windshield reflection. They didn't just steal my name, he whispered. They built an empire of lies on it. He saved the files, encrypted them, and backed them to a secure drive labeled Evidence Alpha. Then he started writing an email, not to the police, not yet, but to someone who could make things burn quietly and cleanly. Subject: Private consultation request, fraud investigation. To Mr. Halverson, senior bank manager. Ryan hit send, and for the first time since Lena's confession, he smiled. The following week unfolded like a well-rehearsed play. To anyone watching, Ryan and Lena looked like a normal couple moving past a marital hiccup. They laughed at breakfast. They went to dinner once. They even posted a smiling selfie at the park. But underneath the domestic illusion, Ryan was conducting a private operation. Every moment, every word, every keystroke had purpose. He had already met with Mr. Halverson, the bank manager. The meeting took place in a quiet office lined with polished oak and silent discretion. Ryan placed a flash drive on the desk. Everything you need is there: forged documents, digital trails, transaction metadata. I don't want a scandal. I just want control. Halverson nodded slowly. You understand, Mr. Carter, if this goes to court, your wife and her partner could face serious prison time. Ryan's expression didn't change. Good, but not yet. He wasn't ready for public chaos, not until he'd turned their own greed against them. That night, Ryan returned home early. Lena was on the couch pretending to read a real estate magazine. She looked up nervously when he entered. You're home early. He smiled softly. Just missed you. She exhaled in relief. You're not angry anymore? Angry? He shook his head, walking behind her and kissing her temple. No, you made a mistake. People make mistakes. She smiled weakly, tears filling her eyes. Thank you. Ryan, I'll fix everything, I swear. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. I know you will. Then he added almost too gently. By the way, Derek called. Said something about an event next week? Her expression froze. He mentioned inviting us both. A networking dinner. Sounds fun, Ryan said casually. Let's go. She blinked. You want to go? Of course, he replied smoothly. It's time we all moved on. He kissed her cheek and walked away, and she never saw the glint in his eyes. 2 days later, in the privacy of his study, Ryan set the next phase in motion. He opened a small console window on his laptop. Code flickered across the screen as he launched Project Mirror, a digital listening trap that would silently sync every communication between Lena and Derek. Logic fix, step 3, deep foreshadowing. Ryan's cybersecurity background, established in earlier scenes, makes this fully believable. The story doesn't magically give him hacker powers. This is his field. He monitored Lena's messages in real time. Derek: We'll announce the expansion at the dinner. Once it's official, we'll cut Ryan off clean. Lena: I'm scared he'll find out. Derek: He's clueless, babe. Just smile and keep him quiet. Ryan leaned back, eyes calm, fingers steepled under his chin. Perfect, he murmured. He encrypted the chat logs, sent a copy to his bank contact, and closed the lid of his laptop with quiet finality. The storm was gathering. Not loud, not chaotic, but like a tidal wave moving beneath calm waters. And when it hit, it wouldn't just drown Derek and Lena's lies. It would wash away the very foundation they built their deceit upon. Ryan smiled faintly to himself. You wanted me to pay for your mistakes, he whispered. Let's see how it feels when the bill arrives. The restaurant's name was Astra, one of the most exclusive rooftop dining clubs in the city. The kind of place where the powerful pretended to be humble over champagne. Lena stood in front of the bedroom mirror, applying her lipstick with trembling fingers. She looked stunning. Elegant blue dress, silver earrings, hairstyle to perfection, but her eyes carried the weight of guilt. "You sure you want to do this?" she asked quietly, meeting Ryan's reflection behind her. He smiled faintly, adjusting his tie. "Why wouldn't I? Derek's your old friend." "I'm curious to meet the man I apparently owe a small fortune." She flinched slightly at his tone, but he gave no hint of anger, only calm. "Ryan," she said softly, "I just want tonight to go smoothly." He turned to her, gently straightening her necklace. "It will." When they arrived, the city skyline sparkled beneath them like a web of light. Waiters in white gloves floated between tables, serving laughter and wine. Derek was already there, confident, polished, surrounded by investors and potential partners. "Ryan!" Derek exclaimed, arms spread wide as though greeting an old friend. "I'm glad you could make it." Ryan smiled, shaking his hand. "Wouldn't miss it." Lena stood awkwardly beside them, forcing a grin. As they sat, Derek raised a glass. "To new beginnings, and to loyal friends who make dreams possible." Everyone applauded. Ryan lifted his glass too, the picture of civility, but beneath the table, a small device hidden in his watch blinked softly, connected to his private network. Every Wi-Fi packet in the building was silently being routed through his encrypted mirror server. Logic fix, step 3, deep foreshadowing. Ryan's company, Carter Cyber Defense, was contracted by several financial institutions. A detail casually dropped in earlier dialogue. This makes his access to digital interception tools completely natural. Derek launched into a speech about Carter Holdings LLC, describing it as a partnership venture backed by strong investors. Ryan listened quietly, watching the man spin a fantasy built on his stolen name. "With this expansion," Derek announced proudly, "we'll revolutionize real estate tech integration, and we couldn't have done it without the financial backbone of our silent partner, Mr. Ryan Carter." Applause echoed. Cameras flashed. Lena's smile froze. She hadn't expected that. Ryan rose slowly, holding his champagne flute. "That's quite an introduction, Derek," he said smoothly. "But tell me, does your presentation include the part where you forged my signature?" The room went still. Derek laughed uneasily. "Come on, Ryan. It's just business talk." But Ryan's watch buzzed. The restaurant's projector flickered to life. The screen behind Derek lit up. A silent slideshow of incriminating documents, email screenshots, and audio clips. Lena's voice, Derek's laughter, the forged contracts, every deceitful whisper, played in front of investors, clients, and guests. Derek froze mid-sentence. Lena turned pale. Murmurs rippled through the room like a rising tide. Ryan's voice was calm, almost surgical. "You didn't just borrow my name, Derek. You built your empire on it. And now, everyone here knows." Lena's breath hitched. "Ryan, please." He didn't even look at her. "Save it." He placed his glass on the table and looked at Derek, whose confident grin had melted into horror. "You said this company was built on trust," Ryan said softly. "Turns out it was built on theft." Then he turned and walked out, leaving the screen glowing behind him, the evidence looping in front of a silent, stunned audience. Outside, the cold wind brushed his face as he stepped into the night. He smiled faintly. That's checkmate. The silence that followed Ryan's exit was deafening. For a full 5 seconds, no one moved. Then the investors began whispering, one after another, sharp, hushed tones cutting through the air like blades. Did he say forged? Was that real? Is this a scam? Derek stood frozen, color draining from his face. He turned toward the projector screen, where the evidence still cycled mercilessly. His own emails, his own voice, Lena's trembling laughter, the forged signatures, the time-stamped transactions. Derek, once it clears, we'll cut Ryan off clean. Lena, he'll never know. He doesn't check the bank. The words hung in the air like a noose tightening. A man in a gray suit, one of the main investors, rose from the table glaring at Derek. You dragged us into a fraud. Using another man's name? Are you insane? Derek stammered. No, it's not what it looks like. This was Lena's idea. But Lena was already backing away, shaking her head, voice trembling. Don't you dare put this on me. The investors stormed out one by one, muttering curses. A woman snapped a photo of the projection before it blinked out. Evidence already spreading through the city's business circles. By morning, Carter Holdings LLC would be blacklisted. By noon, Derek Moore would be a name synonymous with fraud. Meanwhile, Ryan watched the chaos unfold in real time from his car. His laptop screen reflected in his eyes. Multiple live feeds streaming from the restaurant's cameras. He could hear every word. He sipped his coffee, calm and detached, as if listening to a podcast. When Derek slammed his fist on the table and shouted, "You set me up," Ryan muttered softly. "No, Derek, you set yourself up. I just turned the lights on." He clicked one final key, and the projector went dark. Back inside, Lena's world was collapsing. She followed Derek out into the parking lot, grabbing his arm. "What are we going to do?" He shoved her off. "You're on your own. You're the one who said he'd never find out." She screamed after him, but Derek was already gone, tires screeching out of the lot. She turned and froze. Ryan's car was parked under the streetlight. He was leaning against it, arms crossed, face unreadable. "Ryan," she began, her voice breaking. He looked at her with calm, surgical precision. "You know what's funny?" he said softly. "The loan you took in my name just got transferred back to you. Legally." Her eyes widened. "What?" He nodded. "Halverson processed it yesterday. Fraud reversal clause. Every cent you took now belongs to you. With interest." Her knees weakened. "Ryan, please, I can't." "You can," he said simply. "You wanted independence. Now you're financially free." She sobbed, collapsing to the pavement. Ryan didn't move. His tone never rose above a whisper. "You forged my name, Lena. Tonight I reclaimed it." He got into his car, closed the door, and drove away, leaving her crying under the glow of the street light as the city skyline blinked behind her. That night, news headlines spread across business networks. Carter Holdings exposed. Fraudulent scheme using CEO's identity. But in the details, one name was cleared. Ryan Carter. The investigators had already confirmed he'd reported the fraud before the reveal. Lena and Derek? Both under investigation. The world thought the story ended there. But Ryan's revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about justice and control. And he still had one final move left. By dawn, the city's business feeds were on fire. Screens flashed headlines. Carter Holdings under fraud. Probe authorities freeze more tech ventures. Assets reporters parked outside Derek's building. Bank investigators combed through accounts. And in every official memo, one name appeared under complainant, ye primary victim. Ryan Carter. Ryan arrived at the Metropolitan Bank branch just after 9. Mr. Halverson, composed as always, was waiting in his office, a folder already open. "Everything you requested has been processed," Halverson said. "The loan Lena initiated has been legally reassigned to her personal account. Derek's companies are under federal investigation. You're completely cleared." Ryan nodded, calm. "And the equity transfer?" Halverson handed him a signed document. "Executed at 8:47 a.m., Mrs. Carter voluntarily transferred all joint assets to you last night. She said it was restitution." Ryan accepted the papers, sliding them into his briefcase. "Good." Then, almost as an afterthought, "Freeze her business accounts for 72 hours. Standard fraud adjacent review." Halverson hesitated. "She'll have nothing to live on." Ryan's expression didn't flicker. "Then she'll finally understand what she did." He stood, buttoned his jacket, and left without another word. Outside, the world bustled, unaware that a quiet war had just been won. Ryan's phone buzzed. A message from his attorney. "Civil suit filed against Derek Moore and Lena Carter for identity theft, forgery, and damages. Court hearing in 3 weeks. We have enough to settle out of court if you prefer." Ryan typed back, "No settlement. I want records public." He wasn't after money. He was after permanence. Proof that their betrayal would never be rewritten. That evening, Lena showed up at his apartment. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes red from crying. She clutched a worn handbag, all she had left. "Ryan, please," she whispered, standing in the hallway. "I lost everything. They froze my accounts. I can't even pay rent." He studied her quietly, the woman he once loved reduced to trembling apology. "Lena," he said softly, "you forged my name. You lied for your ex. You turned our marriage into a business deal." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I know. I deserve your anger. But can we start over? I can't live like this." He sighed, a long, quiet exhale that carried years of disappointment. "I don't hate you," he said finally. "I just don't know you anymore." He reached into his pocket and handed her an envelope, a cashier's check for a modest amount. "This will cover 3 months of rent. After that, you're on your own. Consider it closure." She looked up, eyes wide with gratitude and shame. "Why would you still help me?" "Because forgiveness," he said, "isn't the same as forgetting." He closed the door gently. The next morning, a court order froze Derek's remaining assets. An arrest warrant followed by afternoon. Ryan didn't watch the coverage. He didn't need to. Justice was already in motion, a machine he'd quietly built with evidence, precision, and patience. For the first time in months, he allowed himself to smile. Not out of triumph, but release. The courtroom air was cold, sterile, and merciless. Lena sat 2 rows behind her attorney, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles turned white. The same woman who once walked into rooms with the confidence of a queen now stared blankly at the polished floor, hollow-eyed. Across the aisle, Ryan sat quietly, suit crisp, posture straight. He wasn't angry anymore, not even bitter, just done. When the judge spoke, the words hit like quiet thunder. "This court acknowledges Mr. Ryan Carter as the victim of identity fraud. Restitution is awarded accordingly." The gavel struck. Final. Lena's lawyer placed a trembling hand on her shoulder, whispering something about appeals, but she didn't hear him. All she could see was Ryan standing, collecting his documents with the same calm precision that once made her feel safe. The calm she'd mistaken for weakness. He turned slightly as he passed her bench. For a moment, their eyes met. She tried to speak. "Ryan," but her voice cracked into silence. He gave a small nod, polite, distant, final, and walked away. Outside, the sky was heavy with gray clouds. Ryan stood on the courthouse steps, breathing in the cold air like it was freedom itself. For months, his life had revolved around deception, evidence, and revenge. Now, standing under the open sky, he finally felt the weight start to lift. His phone buzzed. A message from Maya Collins, his colleague at Carter Cyber Defense. "Saw the verdict. Justice served. You okay?" He typed back, "Yeah, finally. Dinner tonight? You need to celebrate surviving hell." Ryan smiled faintly. "You're right. Maybe I'll actually eat for once." He slipped his phone into his pocket, looking out at the courthouse plaza where people hurried past, oblivious to the quiet war that had just ended. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking about what had been taken from him. He was thinking about what was left and what could still be built. That evening, Lena sat alone in a small apartment she'd barely been able to rent under her new credit restrictions. The walls were bare, the refrigerator half empty. Her phone buzzed every few minutes. Debt collectors, lawyers, former friends pretending they hadn't seen the headlines. She scrolled through old photos, smiling selfies with Ryan, anniversaries, vacations. In everyone, she saw it now. His quiet devotion. His steadiness. The thing she'd mistaken for boredom was actually loyalty. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered to the empty room, "I destroyed the only person who ever loved me right." No reply, just the hum of the broken air conditioner. She buried her face in her hands, and for the first time since the scandal broke, she didn't cry for the money. She cried for the man. In another part of the city, Ryan sat across from Maya at a small Italian restaurant. No pretense, no tension, just warmth. When she laughed genuinely, it felt like oxygen returning to his lungs. He smiled quietly. For the first time in years, not as a husband or victim, but as himself. 3 months later, spring returned to the city. Not that Ryan noticed much of it. He spent his mornings at the gym, his afternoons consulting for private cybersecurity firms, and his evenings reading by the window of his new penthouse apartment overlooking the river. The chaos had settled, the lawsuit had closed, and his name, Ryan Carter, now stood clean, respected, and stronger than ever. But justice still had one final ripple left to deliver. The call came from Mr. Halverson. "Mr. Carter, you might want to see this." Ryan clicked the news link the banker sent him. Headline: Fugitive financier Derek Moore arrested in Spain after attempting to flee with fraud funds. Below, the article detailed how Derek had tried to move stolen assets offshore, only to be caught through a cyber trace planted months ago, a trace that could only have come from one man. Ryan smiled faintly. "I told you not to underestimate breadcrumbs," he murmured to himself. The digital marker he'd left during his investigation had done its job. Derek was finished, extradited, prosecuted, and sentenced. As for Lena, word traveled quietly. Her real estate license had been revoked, her assets repossessed, and the few friends who had once envied her were now whispering about her downfall in coffee shops and conference rooms. One afternoon, Ryan received a letter. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. He opened it carefully. "Ryan, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to read this. I just want you to know that I finally understand what I did. You didn't deserve any of it. I destroyed something pure for something temporary. I'm working 2 jobs now. Every time I walk past a bank, I think of you. I hope someday you find peace, even if it's not with me. Lena." He folded the letter once, twice, and placed it inside a drawer. Not to keep her memory, but to close it properly. That evening, he met Maya for coffee. They didn't talk about revenge or courtrooms or betrayal. Just small things: movies, travel, life. At one point, she asked, "Do you ever think about her?" Ryan stirred his drink, considering. "Sometimes, but not the way I used to." "What way was that?" He smiled softly. "As a wound. Now she's just a scar. Proof I healed." Maya nodded, understanding more than he said. Outside, the river reflected the golden dusk. Smooth, endless, forgiving. For the first time in years, Ryan wasn't calculating or anticipating. He was simply present. But fate had one last irony in store. Not cruel, but poetic. Across town, a billboard lit up. Carter Cyber Defense, protecting what matters most. Lena saw it while waiting for a bus, her reflection shimmering against her ex-husband's rising empire. She looked up, whispered to herself, "He really did move on." And somewhere across the city, Ryan smiled at nothing in particular, as if he somehow knew. 6 months later, the sun had barely risen when the city skyline glowed gold over the river, glass towers catching fire with morning light. In one of those towers, a quiet boardroom meeting was about to change everything. The glass door opened, and a legal representative ushered Ryan Carter inside. He looked immaculate, tailored navy suit, calm expression, eyes sharp but at peace. "Gentlemen," the attorney began, "as of this morning, the acquisition is finalized. Effective immediately, Carter Cyber Defense is now the majority shareholder of Lena Estates, LLC. The board members clapped politely. Ryan simply nodded, expression unreadable. It wasn't triumph that filled the room. It was closure. Once the papers were signed, he stood by the window, looking down at the city below. The same city where his life had fallen apart. Now the same city that bore his name on its most prestigious contracts. He took a quiet breath, then turned to his assistant. "Rebrand it," he said simply. "New name, the Horizon Group." "Horizon, sir?" Ryan smiled faintly. "Because that's all I see ahead." That afternoon, his company released a short press statement. Carter Cyber Defense expands into real estate technology through strategic acquisition of Lena Estates. CEO Ryan Carter states, "Every system can be rebuilt, stronger, smarter, safer." The media called it a masterstroke. The business world called it poetic. And across town, in a modest apartment, Lena read the headline and froze. Her old company, her pride, her name, gone. bought by the man she betrayed. The article included a photograph of Ryan standing before the Carter Cyber logo, shaking hands with investors. Calm, composed, untouchable. Tears filled her eyes, not just of regret, but of realization. She whispered to the empty room, "He didn't ruin me. He surpassed me." Later that evening, Ryan sat on his balcony overlooking the water. The city buzzed below, the sound of life, not vengeance. Maya joined him, 2 cups of coffee in hand. She smiled. "You really bought her company?" He chuckled softly. "No, I bought closure." They sat in silence for a while, watching the skyline shimmer. Maya turned to him. "Do you ever miss the old version of your life?" Ryan thought for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "The old version was built on lies. This one, I built myself." She nodded, smiling. "Then you finally won." He smiled back, shaking his head. "No, Maya, I finally stopped fighting." As the camera of life pulled back, city lights glowing, wind rustling through the terrace plants, Ryan lifted his cup, gazing at the horizon. A soft voiceover echoed the message that would stay with viewers long after the screen faded to black. "Betrayal doesn't break you. It teaches you what deserves your protection and what never did."